Alright guys, welcome back. And despite the fact that I'm not currently watching The Acolyte, I don't currently have a Disney Plus subscription, and I'm not going to wade into the waters to figure out another way to watch this if you catch my drift. The coverage around The Acolyte is impossible to ignore, and it's pretty funny depending on the clips that are coming out and what you see and the backstory and everything else they're trying to cram into this show. It is something to behold, there's no question there. That being said, apparently, according to this article from That Park Place, The Acolyte has Manny Jacinto, the Sith character, essentially, I'm going to say the protagonist at this point, because it seems like he's the best, most interesting character and the one that you're supposed to be caring the most about. Well, apparently they have him quote Jordan Peterson. I'm not even kidding. So the article says the Walt Disney Company continues to use Jordan Peterson as a villain in its various IPs. The latest is having the Sith character played by Manny Jacinto quote Peterson at the end of the most recent episode. This is a paraphrase of a quote from Jordan Peterson that he says here, "Even in the revelation of our triumph, we see the depth of our despair." Peterson said on the podcast, "Wherever I go in the world, people come up to me and often have a pretty rough story to relate. It's an awful thing because you see, even in the revelation of their triumph, the initial depth of their despair." So apparently it's something that they have Manny Jacinto say. And he attempted to explain the line in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, saying, "I think it's essentially our introduction into the third act. It's basically summing up everything that you have thought you knew in these first episodes." So, of course, there's no question that Leslie Headland and everyone at Disney and Star Wars, and we've seen this too with not just Disney and Star Wars and Lucasfilm, but even with things like children's television, where they're trying to make the villains relatable and sympathetic, and they just want you to care more about them. And that's why we're seeing articles from people like Alyssa Mercante over Kotaku talking about the latest Acolyte episode is Star Wars at its most sexy, deadly. Again, all these women lusting over and simping over these men. And ironically, middle-aged baby points out that there are no female versions of this that even come close, talking about Manny Jacinto, because of the fact that you can have all these sexy guys in Marvel, but you cannot have the sexy women, because that is that whole safe horny idea where that's just not allowed. But now we're seeing these clips coming out of this recent episode where he strips down butt naked, which does not happen on a Star Wars anything. I mean, honestly, the weirdest thing for me was as a teenager watching Attack of the Clones and seeing Anakin writhing around in bed saying his mom's name where he's like half naked. Like, I get it. It's not it's not the same thing as like Game of Thrones where they got full frontal nudity and all this, but this is still Star Wars. Star Wars up until the 5th movie didn't have any guy without a shirt on. And of course we have the Acolyte featuring the whip here, the lightsaber whip, which I'm sorry was never a good idea. I don't care if it's extended universe, it's a terrible idea. You've got one of the twins here saying, "What if I reset you to factory settings?" Again, terminology that you would never have seen in the Star Wars universe. Nerdrotic pointing out, "Hey, write what you know." Quote, from the former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland. And the scene is very disturbing. It's very cringy. He asks if she's going to come in the water with him. Otherwise, he wants to get dressed. So, again, very weird tension. Somebody on here on Twitter saying, "This is what they mean by seduced by the dark side." And so the Quartering says, this is who they're making the Acolyte for, degenerate femcells and Pakistani bots. And that's 100% true. This show is meant to appeal to the feminist woke audience because it's okay if they have this, I'm going to say it, he's kind of soy. I'm sorry, Manny Jacinto. He kind of has feminine features, but he's definitely in shape. There's no question there. And from what I hear, he plays the evil Sith character very well. Again, you have a situation where you have a standout on a show that's really bad, but that doesn't make it a good show. But yet, for some weird reason, it's okay for women to lust after these men, but if a man does it, well, now we're in the current year and you can't do that. So now we get to this article from Forbes breaking down the episode. We're going to just briefly go through this. Eric Kane is one of the good ones out there. Eric Kane is not, from my interactions with him, he is not uber political. He doesn't lean necessarily one way or the other that he speaks about. He just reports on the news. He reports on entertainment, and he gives an honest opinion. And it's rare to see. So he says, the Acolyte Episode 6 recap and review, these short episodes were a big mistake. And he has often criticized the length of the episodes because it seems like some of the episodes just are way too short, a little bit of action, cliffhanger, and then the other episodes are just absolute slog to get through. He says this is a tricky one to write about because the 6th episode of The Acolyte is the most uneventful one yet, though we do get a handful of interesting conversations between masters and pupils. The episode is called Teach Corrupt, and I suppose that's apt enough. We get the stranger talking with Osha on an unknown planet that looks a lot like Akcho from The Last Jedi, the isolated planet that Luke Skywalker hid away from when he grouchily trained Rey. I'm not sure if it's the same planet, but it would be kind of cool if it was, since there was some interesting things about that place that they never really got into in the sequels. There's a lot of vague hints at the stranger's past, some discussion of why Osha never became a Jedi, so on and so on. Again, Eric Kane points out that the weakest storyline in this entire series is the twins, which is really sad because of all the conversation about Amandla Stenberg and her discourse video, rap video she made, and all the attacking the fans and the fan blaming that all these outlets have done, has mainly revolved around her because, again, they always have to make it about race, whereas people have been complaining about 99% of the every piece of this show being bad. For some weird reason, it always gets deflected onto, oh, well, you just don't like black people. You don't like strong women. You're sexist or bigots or misogynists. Eric Kane says, the other big issue with this show is one that I've had with Star Wars for a long time now, the gradual decline of the Jedi as a cool, mysterious order of badasses into a stuffy, rather bland bureaucracy. There was a certain amount of that I will say happened in the prequels, but to a certain, they had to do that to a certain effect because the fact of the matter was they were at the height of the Jedi's power, essentially, or coming off of it. So you had the Council, you had, Coruscant was still, in its full prime at that point. And you had to show the Jedi having some sort of structure and order and hierarchy. Let's see, he goes on to say the second pupil master subplot follows May and Sol as they escape Koftar, and she tries to dig into what really happened. The show's been dragging that mystery out for far too long and continues to do so here. Yeah, I mean, I think the most common complaint you see from most people who are basically forcing themselves to watch this show is the slog. It's the fact that everything is dragged out to the point where it's just meaningless. Then he goes, here's what I did like. We got a Power of 2 callback. Oh my. I haven't seen that yet. Chimera is a great character. The show should have been more about him and less about the twin stuff and the Jedi. This should have been a Sith-focused series and just into its star, which is really funny because as much as Disney loves to glamorize the villains and focus on the gray rather than the black and the white, which used to be a thing. Disney used to put out movies that were all about black and white morality, and this modern audience wants more of that gray in between, with nothing being finite, nothing being judgmental. They want to be able to feel their own way through it. I'm surprised they didn't focus on him. Well, we know why they didn't, because they had to have a strong, empowered woman be the lead. May factory resetting the droid was cold as ice. She's a really bad person. Let's see. Thank the Force, the deaths last week were real. So everybody who died in the show last week apparently stayed dead. The scar on Chimera's back looks like a whip saber mark, and I'm guessing that since Venestra has one of those, she's his old master. So again, they set up for some interesting connections apparently, but overall the reality of this show is it is just one massive swing and a miss. Even the people who have been trying to review it fairly, I mean, Eric Kane has done a very good job saying, hey, I went into this hoping it was good. I'm still hoping for a positive ending to it. I just don't know how much longer I can give it. The reality is the show's crap. The show's crap, and the fans who keep shilling for it are unfortunately a small minority of people who actually watch the show. Most of the shills that exist probably don't even watch this garbage. They know it's not good. They can't actually sit through an episode of it. But they want to be a Disney insider one day, so they're just going to keep saying, oh no, this is great. Best Star Wars ever, best lightsaber fight ever. If you don't like it, you're just a bigot. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think about all this. Make sure to check out Meta PCs. They've got their 4th of July sale going on right now with all their custom and pre-builds going on. They got massive deals and discounts going on through July 8th. Be sure to check them out. Link below in the description. Let me know what you guys think about all this. Again, thank you all for being here so much. Couldn't do it without you, and I will catch you on the next one. Alright, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.